Hi, I'm Donna from Evoker, and welcome to the next video in the character creation set tutorial. Today's video will be focusing on the hand and how to create a good shaped hand. I'm going to start in the file I used to create the white box hand, so we're just using the same image plane in order to keep the same proportions of the fingers that we created before. And so we have also that we have our white box hand in here as well, so we can make sure that we follow the same shape and curve of the finger. So I've also rotated this plane slightly so I can have the middle finger running down the center of the grid. This is just a bit of ease of use so that we're modeling in the one direction and don't have to do it on an angle. Okay, so I'll turn this off for now. I'm just going to focus on the finger itself, and then we'll make sure it fits to the image plane. So we're going to start in the top viewport and we're going to create a box. So just click and drag a rectangle shape and drag up to create your box. And we'll make sure in the parameters that you have 2 segments for the length and the height and 3 segments for the width. So just think of this as each one of these lines here would be the knuckle of your finger, and we've got enough geometry there as well to give it shape. So we'll convert this to an editable poly, and we'll start to shape our finger just a little bit. So I'm going to work in the top of the viewport for the majority of this video, and the side more often than not to start with. Okay, so I'm just positioning that in the center. It doesn't need to be exact because we'll be moving it to fit the image plane shortly, but I'm just trying to get it into the right position. I'm going to start in the side viewport actually. I'm going to grab this vertex here and pull it out just so I know where the fingertip is. Okay, so just orienting myself in the viewport, and we're going to start by tapering the shape of our finger. So if this is the fingertip, we want it to be the smallest at this end, and we're going to be the widest down here at the base of the knuckle. Also going to add an edge here so we can add more geometry around our knuckles, because we need enough geometry there, as we've learnt before, to hold the shape of our finger as it starts to animate and it doesn't collapse in on itself. If we rotated it now, so if we grab maybe these and we'll do a quick rotate, and you can see how as it rotates the top part collapses in on itself and the bottom part as well, so it gets really thin here when we want it to be able to maintain the shape as much as possible. So that's just a quick idea of what I mean by it starts to collapse on itself. As you start to animate, you'll understand a little bit more when we start to skin our model. But yeah, we're going to add an edge here for our knuckles. So connect that, and we're going to constrain the edge so we can move it down into position. Again here, we'll connect these edges here to create the top part of the knuckle. So try to keep them evenly spaced. We'll add another one in this section for the knuckle down the back here. And again. Okay. Now we can start to shape our finger a little bit, so we want to make sure our constraint is at none. And we'll start to put a little bit more form into this finger. So we'll bring these ones up a little bit just to help identify where the knuckle is. and exaggerate it a little bit more. It'll also help when animating to make a nice believable fold with it, or crease in the knuckle. Okay, so again, we're going to, from the front, we may as well scale this in a little bit, from the left, sorry, to make it more of a thinner finger, and we'll shape the top as well. So just getting the tapering on the top. So it's wider at the base than it is at the tip, which if you look at your own hand, you can probably see the same. Again, I'm going to move these, so I don't want to adjust the shape all that much, so I'm just going to constrain the edge, make sure I tick back to none. And we're going to continue to round off this shape and give it a little bit more structure and make it a little bit more looking finger-like. Now we know at some point we're going to have to make it match the curve of our white box character, but for now we're building it on the straight. This just makes it easier on ourselves to get the structure right before we put it into the pose. Just grabbing both vertices so I can move it back, so we're mirroring it on each side. Just putting the base of the finger on an angle, so it'll be where we attach it to the knuckle and the palm. Okay, so it's starting to look a little bit more like a finger. If we go into the side, may as well grab this whole section here, and we will scale it out a little bit in the X to round it off, just to start with. We've got this weird bend happening here in the finger. That's not what we want. We want a nice straight taper. Okay, that's a bit better, but we can start to see our finger shape coming through. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add a bit more geometry to help shape this a bit further, and we'll do that by doing it in between each of these sections here. So just selecting the whole ring by using the marquee tool and hitting connect. So this will give us more geometry to work with, and we can start to shape our finger a bit more. So just looking at my own hand and trying to follow the curves of where the base of the fingers are between each knuckle. So we've got the tip here. So this would be about where the end of the nail bed would be. So the nail would come up here. This is actually looking quite long at the moment. I'll probably come back and adjust that later, but we can make that fit to the image plane when we get to it. So just bulking these out a little bit to give it a little bit more form between the knuckles and to round off those edges. Might dip this one in a little bit, there we go. Nope, that doesn't look right. I'll leave the knuckles out. But I will put these on a bit of an angle. Okay. Leave the top view for now. And we're just going to continue shaping. So we'll move into the top view and we'll just start to shape our finger from there as well. So again, just using both my own hand and reference images that I found on the net, I'm going to adjust this shape to fit, to look like a finger. I'm going to grab round off the top. And we can see a dark shadow here. That's because the triangle's flipped in the wrong direction. We can change that later, that's okay. For now we just want to round off and shape our finger. I'm going to bring these in a little bit from the side. Just undoing that slight move. And moving into the scale tool. So just bringing in that knuckle a little bit. Same with this one. Just bringing in that knuckle. I'm going to widen out the base. Okay, we want to keep our curve in our edge loops. Just to follow the natural curve of the finger and the knuckle. As there really is no straight line in nature, so therefore we'll follow the curves. Okay. starting to look a little bit more natural. Not so much from the tip view, but we can start to see how this is going to look. Again, if you want to see what it looked like all smoothed out, you can throw a turbo smooth on to get an idea of how the knuckles are showing up and the finger itself will look like. Throw on another iteration so I can get a nice smooth looking finger, so I can see where the highlights and the shadows are of the knuckles and how things are starting to round off. So we've got the beginning of the crease there. Excellent. Okay. Alright, so now since we do have a female finger, it only makes sense that she should have a nail. So what we'll do is we'll create the base of our nail bed. By selecting those edges and hitting connect. Now it may have come to pass that once we've finished our model and we have a look at our poly count, we're a bit over, so we'll have to remove this part. But the beauty about creating a hand is you can reuse it again. So even if you have to use to reduce the poly count size on this particular hand, you always have a copy of, you keep a copy of the high resolution mesh that you create, and you can reuse it again. So it's always good to create a folder where you can keep different parts of the body that you've created. You can call it the vault, you can call it the morgue, or whatever. I personally call mine the morgue, and I have a whole different collection of different parts that I can reuse when I create my models. So hands, feet, teeth, ears, all of these parts that I find and I've had to reshape into something, I'll keep a copy before I add it to my model. And that way, when I need to go and create another head, another hand, or another ear, or what have you, I can just go straight to my morgue and I can grab the one that is closest to what I need, and I can start from there rather than starting from scratch. So these are good ways to speed up your modeling process. So I'm just creating the nail bed at the moment, so where the nail would sit on the finger. So I've obviously created quite a few endgongs, but I will be cleaning these up. So yeah, there's quite a bit of distance between the tip of the finger and the base of the knuckle. I may want to shorten that later. It's too much at the moment. I might do it now actually. It's a little off-putting. So if I bring that, make sure constraint to edge is turned off, and I'll bring that back. That's a bit better. Just so that there's less of a gap between the first knuckle and the end of the nail bed. Okay, so I'll also continue with my nail by making a cut here. And I'll start to shape my fingernail, so sinking the nail bed into the finger a little bit, and we'll round it off. So just keeping an eye on your reference, either your own hand as well as what you find on the internet. Just continuing to shape. So the nail bed actually sits inside the finger. Just rounding this off a little bit. And I'm going to build these edges back to get rid of those endgongs. And I will connect these vertices here. Get this one just for now, and I'll bring this forward for the nail and round that off. So just keeping the roundness. Okay, it's quite a deep nail bed. I'll bring the tip back a little bit. That looks a bit better. So you can start to see our finger forming. Okay. Just having a look now at what I need to adjust now, and I think it might be these knuckles. So what I might do is to create an edge here to help shape the knuckle a little bit better. So I'll grab my cart tool again, and I'll go from here so just on this base knuckle, and same on this side. And then I'm going to bring these out. To round off the finger and the shape of the knuckle. So just checking again from the front view how things are shaping up, and I will continue to tweak. Just tucking these in a bit, so this will be the widest part of the knuckle. I'm just continuing on. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is bring up my image plane, and we're going to adjust this and move it into position. So scaling it down. Okay, so we can see too, if we move this out of the way, that this knuckle is pretty much in the right position. So we're close to being correct. We just need to make sure that we shape our finger right now. Okay, so bring this in a little bit. Do it with a scale. So it doesn't need to be perfect. So it was a little bit too exaggerated with my tapering. There we go. And we can just continue to shape our model. So we can turn our image plane off now. And continue to tweak. Okay, so we're close to getting the shape we want. We're going to start putting the curve into our finger now. So we'll bring back our white box model as reference. We'll move it into roughly position. And we'll start moving these into the curved shape of the finger. Nope. So we want to keep our knuckles in the same position. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking for this middle line of that knuckle, and I'm trying to line it up with the knuckle of the white box model. Once I'm happy with it, okay, what we'll also do is we'll make sure that we freeze that selection so we can't do what just happened there when I accidentally selected the white box model and moved it. So making sure I undid that and then just freezing the model. Okay, and then I'm just going to continue to tweak this to make sure everything looks right. So just still working on this one finger. A slight bender seems to have occurred in here. So just straightening that out a little bit. Okay, so we can see there's a we're getting the shape of it right after we've curved it down, so we'll just keep tweaking that until we can get something that's nice. I think we'll probably have to add an edge here, and I think if we probably look into another viewport as we've rotated it, yeah, some of the edges have gone a little bit skew-if. So we need to go in and we need to make sure that we reshape all of these so we can constrain it to the edge and move them back into position a little bit more. But we still want to maintain that nice curve. We might need to lift up the tip of the finger as well. So just moving everything back in, making sure that we're still maintaining the shape after the rotation that we did. So just spreading these out a little bit more. And what we'll do here is we'll actually cut in an edge here. I think I've clearly grabbed some of the wrong verts when we've rotated, so it's gone off the line a little bit, but this will actually be where it connects a bit more, so this would go back up into the knuckle, while this would be the base of the palm, so we'd probably add an edge here anyway. So we'll just leave that for now, and we'll just keep tweaking everything else so we can get a nice shape to our finger. So I'll grab this and we'll lift it up just a little bit. We can bring back our image plane. No, sorry, our box, just to make sure that we're still in alignment. Yep, that looks about right. So yep, there we go. Still got that nice curve of the finger. Excellent. What I might do is I might name this now so I don't get confused with the just image plane when I go to change it back and forth, so I'll just call it finger, and we'll continue to tweak the shape a little. Okay, you can see here that I have removed the fingernail from the finger. This is just to help me get the shape right, and we'll add it again later. So we can see things have gone a little bit pear-shaped down here as I've started to tweak the shape. I've got rid of the fingernail for now, just to make it a little bit easier on myself. Swirl those verts. I think this is actually caving in on itself, so if I go back, yep. You can tell by the shadow when we look at the side that that's going in, and we can confirm that by having a look around. So what we'll do is we'll bring that out to round off the shape, and we can constrain it to our edge. So just tweaking these back in. With constrained edge on, just to line them up a little bit better. And then we're going to move them out a little. In fact, I'm thinking we probably don't need this line at all. Yeah, I think by looking at this is all very close together, so I don't think we'll need the extra line there, but what I will do is I'll add another line around here, again for when I put the nail back in. I'll connect that, and then grab these two vertices here, and I'll connect them as well. Just use target weld on this edge, and then I think I'll go around and I'll get rid of this edge here. It's a little unnecessary right now, and it's just adding to, it's not really adding much to the shape. So I'll get rid of this for now. I'll just leave it there. And if I need it, I can always put it back later. But I think this will be more than enough geometry for our finger. Okay, just having a look from the top, you can see that the knuckle comes in. Yeah, that's going to look nice. And we brought the edges out again to show the width of the knuckle. So it's just adding a bit of shape to the finger. And we've got enough geometry for the bend. Pull this out a little bit. Leave constraint to edge. So just spending a lot of time on this very first finger to make sure we get it right, because then we'll just duplicate it for the rest of them. Okay, so we'll just continue to tweak. I think I'm pretty much happy with that. I'm going to fix this edge here. I'm going to delete this. And then I'm going to cut in an edge from here to here. Same for the other side, so just cut in that edge here. And remove this one. Now this will be joining the hand, so we can fix that up later. We can delete these. And we'll fix up that triangle when we join it to the hand. In fact, we might actually need that for the hand, for the join, to create the webbing. Okay. Now we can put our nail back on. We can create a nail here. Might bring these back a little bit so constrain to edge and pull it back to where the nail bed would be. So there's the knuckle and this is the nail bed, so we can just sink that, whoops, we'll sink it in the front. We don't need to sink the whole thing in, so just pull that in and down a little bit. Okay, now we can cut that edge in again. Just keep tweaking this until I can get the shape that I want. I'll weld these back. So as I can find my extrude. Always seem to lose that thing. There we go. I'm going to bring that down. So this will give a little bit more depth to the nail. And we'll hit OK. And what we want to do to make sure that the nail looks like it's sinking into, or growing out of, I should say, the finger, is to drop that and pull it back. And then we can grab the front two here and extrude that ever so slightly. It's just a bit more than that, just to give her, of course, if your character has longer fingernails, you'd make them longer. Don't make them too long. I'll just bring this down to round off the tip a bit more. Now her nails wouldn't be too long. She's an archaeologist. She's digging in the dirt all day. So I'm going to keep them fairly short. Of course, you can do this straight into texture, and you may have to when we get to the end and we have a look at our poly count, and if it's too high, we will have to remove the nail. But it can also be used as a base for our normal map. Fix up the shape just a little bit. Okay, excellent. That is our first finger. Now, of course, our hand has more than one finger, so what we're going to do is we're going to clone these and modify it for the rest of our fingers. So we'll start by deleting our turbo smooth, and we'll bring back our white box. Make sure it's sitting nicely in that curve. Yep, hasn't strayed too far. Excellent. So holding shift, We'll drag it out for the ring finger and hitting OK when it asks us to, and we'll rotate that slightly into position. So bringing it down and rotating it into place, making sure our knuckles line up, tilting it slightly. There we go, so just rotating and moving into position. And again, shift and drag to rotate, to clone the mesh, and we'll rotate and move into position again. Okay, so just scaling ever so slightly, making sure our knuckles line up. And again for the last finger, and moving and rotating into position. Remembering that there's a curve to our knuckles. So we'll move this right back, scale and rotate to match the thumb of the white box. So just trying to get the knuckles to line up as well. You can't, well, the first knuckle, because this one won't. Just a rough position. Okay. Now we can hide our white box. And start creating the palm of our hand. So we'll hide this thumb for now.
We'll continue on with the next video.